In 2023, a Chinese cargo vessel completed a journey that would have been impossible just a decade ago. It sailed from Shanghai to Rotterdam, not through the Suez Canal, not around the Cape of Good Hope, but across the top of the world, across melting Arctic ice. The voyage saved 40 days. It saved millions in fuel. And it proved something that governments and shipping companies had been hoping and fearing in equal measure. The Arctic had opened as a trade route. What happened to that one ship is about to happen to thousands more. And the world is not ready. The Arctic Ocean is waking up. Climate change is opening a corridor that was sealed in ice for millennia. The greatest shipping revolution since containerization is about to unfold in the harshest, most remote, and most politically contested place on Earth. It is a trillion-dollar opportunity, and it is also a trillion-dollar catastrophe waiting to happen. This is the story of how global trade could move north, and why in doing so, it might collapse entirely.
I'm standing at Kirkenes in northern Norway, one of the Arctic's only ice-free ports. Behind me is the Barents Sea. Winter temperatures plummet to -30 Celsius. Ships attempting Arctic routes from here are only viable for a few months each year. Even in summer, when ice recedes, the Arctic remains one of the most hostile operating environments on Earth. The ice doesn't disappear, it fragments into thousands of pieces, some the size of buildings. Navigation becomes constant risk calculation. And rescue, if something goes wrong, is hours away at minimum. Days if you are in true distress, far from civilization.
The Arctic Ocean has been a graveyard. For centuries, explorers died trying to cross it. Ships were crushed in pack ice. Crews froze in darkness. But climate change has transformed this graveyard into something else, an escape route. The ice is melting faster than anyone predicted. Passages that were completely impossible are now opening for months at a time. And for the first time in human history, there is an economically viable shortcut from Europe to Asia that bypasses the Middle East entirely. The Northern Sea Route, stretching along Russia's Arctic coast, reduces the distance from Shanghai to Rotterdam by nearly 40%. A voyage that took 50 days now takes 30. A single transit saves a shipping company between $300,000 and $500,000 in fuel alone. Multiply that across hundreds of ships, thousands of voyages per year, and you are talking about billions in annual savings. China saw this first. In 2017, Beijing declared itself a polar power and launched the Polar Silk Road. Russia, economically isolated and desperate for partners, opened its arms. Within 5 years, Chinese companies dominated Arctic shipping infrastructure, Arctic port development, and Arctic resource extraction. They were not asking permission. They were building the future of global trade. But this is not simply about commerce. This is about power.
I'm aboard the Polar Stern, one of the world's most advanced icebreakers. We are cutting through multi-year ice that is 3 to 4 years old and incredibly dense. The ship is a marvel of engineering, equipped with state-of-the-art rescue systems and research capabilities. What strikes me is how limited even this vessel is. In certain ice conditions, it performs brilliantly, but extreme pack ice still stops it cold. The crew tells me that if a commercial vessel became trapped beyond our operational range, rescue becomes almost impossible. We are one of the best equipped icebreakers in the world, and we have severe limits.
Control the Arctic, and you control global trade for the next century. That is not metaphor. That is geopolitical reality. The United States watched this expansion with growing alarm. NATO, having largely ignored the Arctic for 30 years, suddenly realized it had been outmaneuvered. Canada, Norway, Greenland, nations on the Arctic periphery, became overnight central to a new Cold War. Russia, weakened by sanctions, saw the Arctic as its last great strategic advantage. And China, locked out of American-controlled seas, saw it as the pathway to global economic dominance without relying on Western infrastructure. The Arctic is becoming the chessboard for the next great power competition. The stakes are absolute. The implications are global. But there is a problem that none of these governments wants to acknowledge. The Arctic route does not actually work yet. Not safely, not reliably, not at the scale global trade demands. The physical reality of Arctic shipping is almost incomprehensible to those who have never experienced it. Ice does not melt uniformly. It breaks into massive chunks that drift unpredictably with currents and wind. Compacted ice can exert pressures of up to 50 tons per square meter against a ship's hull. Normal cargo vessels cannot withstand this punishment. Ice-class ships, specially reinforced to break through frozen water, cost 2 to 3 times more to build than conventional vessels. They consume more fuel, they carry less cargo, and even they are not invulnerable. Darkness is another dimension of danger. For months in winter, the Arctic exists in perpetual twilight or complete darkness. Navigation satellites fail at extreme northern latitudes. Radio communication degrades. GPS becomes unreliable. The magnetic compass becomes nearly useless near the Arctic. In the darkness, a ship can become invisible to other vessels. Icebergs appear without warning. A sudden storm can turn survival into catastrophe in minutes. This is where the trillion-dollar problem truly begins. Arctic shipping economics only work if vessels move through quickly and repeatedly, but the ice will not permit this. The northern sea route is only reliably passable for 3 to 4 months per year. That means a shipping company buying an ice-class vessel can only use it profitably during a narrow window. The rest of the year, that ship sits idle or travels expensive alternative routes. The economics collapse. The business case disappears. Then there is insurance. Lloyd's of London charges premiums for Arctic voyages 3 to 5 times higher than traditional routes. The risks are simply too great. A collision with ice, a navigation error, a mechanical failure thousands of kilometers from any port. Any of these becomes catastrophic loss in hours. But economics are just the beginning. The Arctic has almost no infrastructure. There are almost no ports. The ports that do exist, mostly Russian, are minimally developed. No modern repair facilities, no supply depots, no communication stations across vast stretches. If a ship suffers engine damage in the Arctic, the nearest repair facility is 1,500 kilometers away. A vessel that loses propulsion becomes trapped in drifting ice, and rescue becomes an international emergency.
I'm at a shipping logistics center in Oslo, where companies are planning Arctic routes and schedules for coming years. The optimism is striking. Executives are drawing routes on maps, calculating profit margins, committing capital to Arctic-specific infrastructure. They speak with confidence about opening a new shipping frontier. But when you talk to people who actually pilot ships through Arctic ice, who work on rescue teams, who manage operations in practice, the tone changes completely. It becomes cautious. It becomes brutally honest about the dangers. There is a massive disconnect between what the business community believes is possible and what operational reality allows.
China is betting they are the same. In 2021, COSCO Shipping sent a container ship through the Arctic. It arrived in Rotterdam 11 days faster than the conventional route. The voyage proved it could be done. It set a precedent. Now China is investing tens of billions in Arctic port development, icebreaker construction, and resource extraction. Magadan, Sabeta, Murmansk expansion. China is not asking if Arctic shipping is safe. China is asking how quickly it can dominate Arctic trade before other nations catch up. Russia is equally committed. The Kremlin sees Arctic development as its economic future. Oil reserves, natural gas deposits, rare earth minerals. The Arctic is resource-rich beyond measure. Arctic shipping monetizes those resources, and the Northern Sea Route passes exclusively through Russian territory. The Kremlin controls every ship that transits it. That is power. And that is leverage. That is survival for a nation otherwise losing relevance. The United States has watched this unfold with alarm and frustration. America lacks the icebreaker fleet to compete. It lacks modern Arctic ports. It did not invest in Arctic infrastructure for decades. And now the Arctic is central to global trade, and America is behind. China has modern icebreakers. Russia has icebreaker capability. The United States has two. For the nation claiming to be the dominant maritime power, this is a strategic catastrophe.
I'm inside a vessel traffic control room on the Norwegian coast. Screens display real-time positions of every ship attempting Arctic transit. Green dots are cargo vessels, red dots are icebreakers, yellow dots are research ships. Right now, in early autumn, there are 43 commercial vessels active in Arctic waters. The operators here tell me that number could reach 300 within 5 years. But the infrastructure to support that traffic doesn't exist yet. Communication networks are patchy. Search and rescue capacity is stretched thin even now. If Arctic shipping scales as fast as investors predict, this system will be overwhelmed. And when systems are overwhelmed, failures cascade.
But there is a deeper risk. The current plan is not to use the Arctic as a backup. The current plan is to depend on it, to rely on it, to structure global trade around it. Shipping companies are already planning to move cargo to Arctic vessels. Investors are committing capital to Arctic infrastructure. Governments are designing policy around Arctic shipping success. If the Arctic route fails, the fallback is chaos. This is not speculation. This is the mathematics of maritime operations in extreme environments. Every increase in Arctic traffic increases the probability of catastrophic incident. Every increase in Arctic infrastructure creates new dependencies. And every government betting its supply chains on the Arctic is wagering on a corridor that remains unstable, politically contested, operationally unproven at scale, and subject to the absolute whims of Arctic weather. The Arctic Ocean is waking up, and the world is rushing north without pausing to ask fundamental questions. The Arctic has not asked to be a highway. It has not asked to carry the weight of global commerce. It does not forgive miscalculation. It does not reward shortcuts. It does not care about quarterly earnings or supply chain optimization. In the next decade, we will discover whether human ambition can successfully challenge one of the harshest environments on Earth. We will discover whether economics can overcome physics. We will discover whether the world is ready for what comes next. Or we will discover too late that we have built the future on ice. And ice, as it always has, will melt. The $1 trillion Arctic route is opening. The world is moving north. The ice is melting. And the future of global trade is about to be rewritten in the place where humans remain, despite all our technology and wealth, fundamentally vulnerable. Whether it survives or becomes the next great failure of human overconfidence, that story has only just begun.
I'm standing on the Norwegian Arctic coast at the edge of a shipping world that barely exists today, but may define global trade within a decade. Out there, beyond the cold and the darkness, investors see profit, governments see leverage, and shipping companies see speed. But standing here, what you feel first is not opportunity. It is exposure. It is distance. It is fragility. Because this region is still ruled by weather, by ice, and by limits that technology has not erased. The Arctic may become the next great trade corridor, but from here, tonight, it looks just as capable of becoming the next great global miscalculation.